Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Energy Transition virtual event. This is the first session of the mini-series for Housing Europe members in this year. The goal of the game is to become well-informed about the energy transition and to gain new insights into the measures and concepts that play a role in the energy transition. My name is Abderrahim, and I will be your host for the session. Thank you for joining us today. Together with the team, we are joining from Brussels, and the outside temperature is about 6 degrees than last week. So you can also share with us from which city or country you are joining in the chat. So let me introduce our main players of the day. We start with the welcome speech from our Secretary General, Soraya Edwards, then Simona Doca, coordinator of the TripleA-Reno project, Jan Kromwijk, project coordinator at ISO, will explain the idea behind the board game and its current use in the Netherlands. Bjorn Mallatz, director of the Association of Flemish Housing Companies, VVH, will share with us practices which involves all parties in the renovation process. We are also joined by two Housing Europe staff that will be leading the two breakout rooms, Clara Maffei and Dara Turnbull. So without any further ado, I will give the floor to Soraya Edwards.
Thank you very much, Abdu, and thanks a lot. It's really nice to see everybody on this quite grey Monday. I'm here from Brussels. We saw actually quite a lot of enthusiasm for today's session, and I think what it really shows is that we really need to look at these complex problems in different ways to give us a new perspective, and clearly that in these quite lonely days where we are all quite isolated, this type of interaction is really welcome. So we were really happy to see so many people interested. So let me just put a few words to kick us off, and mainly what we thought would be best is to put it into the context a little bit of the more general work of Housing Europe and the objectives of Housing Europe as the federation that brings together all of the social, public and cooperative housing bodies across Europe. And let's put the game in the context of that work that we're doing. So I think all of us, when it comes to renovation, we really share the goals of the AAA project, so attractive, acceptable, affordable. So it's a common goal, but let's say easier said than done. And I think just from a few minutes looking at the game, you start to see just even at a local individual home level, there are so many different scenarios and different approaches that can be taken for each building. And I think what also will become clear is just, again, how important it is that all the different stakeholders have the right information. Because this is in many cases, this is really a new challenge at so many different levels. And then after we're practicing with the team on Friday, it really made me see that we can really see the same sort of challenge here at EU level where we're working. So the big policy objective here at the moment, as many of you know, is the Fit for 55. So the continent has set the objective, so the EU, to reduce by 55% their emissions by 2030 compared to 1990. And it's still not quite clear what is going to be the mix of finance and the mix of policies that we're going to come up with to meet those ambitious targets. So quite similar, you'll see, to the level of the home focused in this board game. And then what our focus is to ensure that we talk about stakeholders. So here, that Housing Europe as a key stakeholder representing those housing providers, that we are part of that conversation and a key stakeholder in that conversation at EU level to indeed make sure that the resulting renovation policies are acceptable and affordable for those organizations, but also for the people that live there. And it's going to be a challenging year because there are many different pieces of legislation on the table that are going to shape this. So many of you know we have the EED, Energy Efficiency Directive, coming up in June, the recast. We have the recast of the Energy Performance Building Directive. At the same time, we have the Renewable Energy Directive. But also on the finance side, we have a promise that 37% of the next generation EU, so 37% of the approximately 750 billion euro put on the table for the recovery fund should go to Green Deal objectives. We also have a European Investment Bank, which has committed to ensuring that 50% of their loans also contribute to Green Deal objectives. So it gives us also the opportunity to look at the budget side, which is also, as you will see in the board game, a key factor to consider, of course. So what I did think about also when we were playing the game is that, of course, the role of our members is to ensure that tenants or cooperators, residents are well informed. They also very much need to look at the level of the district and look at the supply side instruments such as district heating. So those elements aren't really considered in this game. They also need to consider the livability, the accessibility of the homes, for instance, for elderly in the homes, but also in the surrounding neighborhoods. So the work of the housing providers doesn't stop at the four walls. They need to work with partners like the construction sector and in many cases, public authorities. And when it comes to the federations, they also need to look at that national level. So they need to look at how the fiscal framework is going to impact their work. Fiscal framework when it comes to the energy grid, when it comes to, for instance, the tax levels on renovation or on local energy production. So I was thinking after for Jan and Simona, there's a lot more work to be done. So we can have a number of different board games dealing with those different levels of challenges as the continent faces this complex and nitty-gritty problem. I think this is where, so this puzzle, it fits in at the level of the home. This is what we're going to see now. And then, yeah, this is our challenge to see how it then fits into the renovation roadmaps to be developed at regional and national level, and right up to the international Paris Agreement ahead of the next climate talks in Glasgow. And I think what's really crucial, and that is also feeding into our work here on legislation, is that there is really no single approach. And you will see that in the game in the many different combinations and scenarios, which depend on the local context, the budget, the profile of the building, the profile of the resident, heat supply sources, and that the further away we go from those contexts, indeed, the less prescriptive we should actually be. So that accounts also for EU level. So I think it's really a really important part of the puzzle, that individual home. And I think this work with the team in the TripleA project has been really useful, feeding in also to the work at European level. So I leave you there. Thanks a lot for inviting me to deliver the first few words. And I think I give the floor back to you, Abdul.
Yes, thank you. So thank you for this overview and raise the issue of the budget. So now it's time to go on Mentimeter. So I invite you to go on menti.com. I will be sharing my screen with you. I'm already sharing my screen, probably, yeah. Okay, so go on menti.com and you have the code 6876 683. And let's start for a few questions to the audience. So the first question is, it's the most challenging one, I guess, for today. So let's start from, how do you feel today? Good. Maybe people are still connecting. Busy for a Monday, it's quite good. Participants are feeling great for a Monday morning, so good. So now I will go to the next question. Ready to play. We are also here for this. Good. Next question is, how far did you travel today? Or some people just walk from one room to another to join us, which is good. Most of them. Some people are also working from the office, I guess. So next question. So what do you already know about the energy transition game? If you played it before, if you know anything? Not much. Oh. So someone just wrote, it is amazing. I guess it's someone from our colleagues. So if you don't know much about the energy transition game, you are at the right place. So in this session, you will learn new insights. Okay, let's move to the next question. Oh, this one is, it's more embarrassing as a question. Okay, if you are wondering where is the link that we sent now in the chat, it's Housing Europe website. You can find the agenda, the updated one, and also you can download the information about the board game in a virtual version. Okay. So let's move to the next question. Did you play the game at home? Not yet, so okay. If we reach 6 yes, I guess who they are. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for taking part to the Mentimeter. So now it's time to give the floor to Simona Doca to present us the TripleA-Reno project.
Thanks, Abdu. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so well, I'm very pleased to be here with this small but enthusiastic team to present TripleA-Reno as a project. So as we said already, my name is Simona Doca. I am an architect and I'm the TripleA-Reno project coordinator at Huygen Consultants and Engineers. We are based in the Netherlands, but right now we are all relocated. So I'm currently working from Italy, Torino, my hometown. So my role today will be to give you a small introduction to the TripleA-Reno project, so that when you're going to play the game, you are going to be more aware of the meanings behind it. So TripleA-Reno stands for attractive, acceptable, and affordable deep renovation that focuses on a consumer-oriented and performance evidence-based approach. So we are today more than ever aware that our building stock is responsible for more than 80% of the European energy consumption. That equals to more or less 36% of the overall greenhouse gas emission in Europe. However, only 1% of the current building stock is undergoing efficient renovation every year. So in a way, to meet our 2050 climate neutral goals, so the goals of the renovation wave, so-called, it is crucial to make this renovation rate increase. And what is also very important is that at the moment, at this time being, nearly 34 million Europeans are unable to afford keeping their homes heated and healthy in terms of a healthy environment. So it is indeed crucial to support this renovation wave, not only for economical perspective, but also for the well-being of the future generations. So TripleA-Reno is a Horizon 2020 project, is a coordination and support action that was funded in 2018. So it officially started in May 2018, and it will run until at least April 2021. So we are almost at the end of our project. The main goal of TripleA-Reno is to raise awareness and to provide guidance on the different phases of a home renovation, having in mind the main barrier for homeowners and for tenants about the difficulties in mastering the renovation process, which is very complex, sometimes very costly in terms of resources and knowledge. So the idea of TripleA-Reno is to make this difficult process more attractive, more affordable, and more acceptable. I just wanted to give some key highlights of what we mean for these three pillars. So attractive means that the aim is to make this renovation easy to understand and easy to plan. So the idea is that through TripleA-Reno, we're going to develop some supporting tools at different levels to increase the attractiveness of home renovations, so that at the end, when the decision-making process will be in the full development, the final end user will have more tools in terms of practical tools, but also knowledge. And this is, for instance, what the energy transition game means, to increase the knowledge about the different stages and the different scenarios. The second pillar is affordability. So with the energy transition game and with TripleA-Reno, we're trying to highlight how home renovations can also become affordable when planned in the right way. So thinking about all the possible benefits and planning also step by step in a way that the right measure will be the one that will also provide the shorter return of investment and will be fit for the purpose. And finally, but not for less importance, is the acceptability. So we would like to make this home renovation more acceptable. So trying to highlight those co-benefits for home renovation, which are not only tailored or determined because of the energy saving potential of the home, but also because of the co-benefits. So energy savings that will equal to saving costs, but also the increase of comfort and the increase of health and well-being of the people living in the homes. So this is an holistic perspective that bases on these three pillars, but has the full meaning of supporting the increase of the renovation rates for the next years. So as I said, our main objectives are basically funded in what we call the frustrations of home renovation. We see and we saw, but we're still seeing that the European renovation market is still largely top-down and supply-driven, in a sense that there is still a mismatch between what the homeowners and the residents could afford for the home renovation and what the industry is providing. So also TripleA-Reno, with the energy transition game is trying to increase awareness on the possible solutions and that could be out there in the market, and try to match the needs with the possible offers. Another important point, very crucial, which is our objective, as I said, is to increase knowledge, but also trying to do this with a data-driven approach. So with the energy transition game, we will learn facts. So we will see a lot of facts and numbers, but this is intrinsically our objective. The fact that the future home renovation will be supported by data before and after the renovation works. In TripleA-Reno, we have several demonstration sites in 6 countries, the Netherlands, Hungary, Slovenia, Italy, Greece, and Spain. And with the 7 demonstration sites, we will try to validate the final end results, but we use the people, we got help by the people, the different stakeholders in this demonstration site for the co-design of the tools themselves. And intrinsically, we're going to validate also the tools developed after. So this is a co-creation before and after for validation. We're expecting from the project several impacts. Of course, we are hoping to trigger for the future home renovations. So that's the reason why we want to start from the people living in their homes. So convincing them that there are tools that can also create a new generation of residents more informed, more enthusiastic also about home renovations, and trying to somehow clear out the fears behind, putting in a more playful way. But as we know from the kids, when they play, they start to gain confidence, and that's our hope for TripleA-Reno as well. The next step, of course, is to trigger energy saving potential and eventually installment of renewable energy. But we know that also for the COVID pandemic, some of these actions at a pause. But for us, indeed, the scope and the impact of TripleA-Reno is about sharing the knowledge, sharing engagement, and hoping that for the next generation of renovation, this enablement to the user side will be deployed for future home renovations. As I said, the energy transition game, so the TripleA-Reno board game, is one of our main results. We also have others that are also supporting this overall concept. One of is the combined labeling scheme that basically will combine energy saving potential with the indoor environmental quality improvement in home. And that has a sort of a professional version, but also a tailored home resident version, like a simplified one. And then, of course, the ICT tool himself, which is a user-centered gamified platform that supports the home renovation in different stages. So, as I said, our vision for TripleA-Reno was to validate and to roll out these tools, like the one we're presenting today, through a roadshow. So going with the people, meeting in person, and trying to validate and to test these tools together with people with different extractions. However, of course, because the situation we're living today, we had to move to the digital version. So from the home shows and this sort of working session, but we really hope that our enthusiasm is, getting through the channel and the virtual dynamic we're living today. And that's the reason why I'm really glad that Housing Europe organizing this event. So I'm really curious about the end results, but that's basically our role and our scope. Together with us, there are also other umbrella associations that I really want to thank for showcasing the project and for really working very, very hard on the communication and the dissemination. Like for instance, this beautiful infographics we're using. But in general, that's the scope of the TripleA-Reno project. So without any further ado, I would like to hand over again the stage to the host. But I would like to suggest you to go through our channel. We are present on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also visit our website or the website of our partners, which are very often also sharing our latest news, or just send me an email if you would like to know more about the project. So thank you for the attention, and I think I'm handing over again to Abdelrahim.
Thank you, Simona. If you can stop sharing, so I can move to the next speaker, Jan Kromwijk, to give us a bit of a background on the board game.
Yeah, thank you. I'm starting to share my screen. So if everything went well, you now see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, all right. Thank you for the introduction and the enthusiasm of Housing Europe for addressing the energy transition board game in the TripleA-Reno Home Show. And what I'm doing is that I'm presenting the board game within the context of the TripleA-Reno development. Within TripleA-Reno, we distinguish 3 different levels of interaction. One in the design phase, where the board game is situated. One in the construction phase, where quality assurance by use of a platform is provided. And 3, learning from realized projects, where we create a feedback loop between the performance of a renovation and the previous stages of the model. And by gamification, we try to strengthen the communication not only within a level, but most important also between levels. I will introduce them shortly. One, the design phase. Our main approach is that we want to use morphological design, and that means as less text as possible and as much graphics as possible in order to generate a clear overview of your dwelling and the possibilities for your dwelling related to your wishes. This is where the board game fits best within the TripleA-Reno platform. Another part is that we also have a measures and concepts database where the measures that are used in the board game are described, and where in the digital version of the platform, in the future, we can also store the concepts that are designed. And then a next thing, you want to get advice or to organize advice. The board game is one of the means to provide a proper advice within TripleA-Reno. And 3, and that's last but not least, you also want to involve craftsmen, as craftsmen in many cases have a very practical and pragmatic approach. It's also good to take that into account to make energetic renovations better feasible and performing better. Its origins. In principle, it's a DWA original. It's DWA is a Dutch advisory company, and they created the first version of the board game in order to train participants at housing associations to get a grip on what is energy transition. And when within TripleA-Reno, the question came, we want to design a board game because it was originally not in the plans, but during the project we found out that the board game could be fantastic. We asked DWA if we could co-create on top of what they already have done, and they agreed on that. And that means that we co-created the current version of the game, and I would like to express that it is co-created in order to co-create in the future. So here you see the Housing Europe team in Valencia during one of our consortium meeting, working with the first prototype of the English version of the board game, and our anthropologist from Slovenia also working on it. Based on that session, we co-created the game as it is currently by making more than 60 improvements on the original. That was huge. And one of the things that is important to express is that we played it without any game rules in Valencia. And currently, one of the results of the co-creation is that we now have a quite good usable set of game rules. The game board itself has the central part where the dwelling is represented and where you can stick the measure cards, a place for the scenarios that can be played, and we also have introduced chance cards in order to create local opportunities or national opportunities that can be addressed within the game. I think it's good to do a very short explanation of the measure card. All measures have a name. They have a short description what is meant by the measure. And you can also see in some cards that there are specific requirements. For example, if you want to use an air source heat pump, then several elements of the building needs to have a certain quality that is explained here and that can relate to other of the measures card. And what you can see is the money saving points. It gives a clue on how much energy you are going to save. Comfort points, how much comfort a measure gives you. The ease of installation points, if it is an easy technology or if it is a more difficult measure. If there is low maintenance, then you can also earn some points from low maintenance. And here we have the points that are explained within the game rules, and I think the game leaders will explain them furtherly. The game points, because you have to save energy in the end or to produce sustainable energy. And the price points, because budget is often not limitless. So you have to choose measures within the budget. There are different colors for the measures. Those are linked to the colors on the game board so that you know where to put down the measures. The scenarios are described by a title, a short introduction, a clear objective, and some guided instruction. And especially for training purposes, we have added insight questions that can be used by, for example, an energy performance trainer or an energy advisor or an energy consultant to trigger the thinking of the end user. And here an example of a chance card. Sometimes there is a collective purchasing possibility in your area, and then you will get a discount on your price points, for example, so that you can do more with the same budget. We created the game with several things in mind. It has to be easy to translate and to localize, because this is the game as it is now. And we want to stimulate co-creation because, for example, in Spain, there will be a few other measures that are relevant. So the Spanish players must be able to localize the existing measures if needed, and to extend the measures if needed. And the same for the type of dwelling. We currently addressing one type of building within the game, but there are multiple types of dwellings within Europe. So it has to be easily localized also with the dwelling in mind. To extend it, it also has to be easy to produce using standard technology, and it has to be easy to ship. For translation, we are working on a guidance manual and localization, and several translations and localizations are already underway by the Spanish team and by the Slovenian team. It has to be easy to extend, to compose, for example, new scenarios, chance cards, and add additional game rules, because the game is as is. And if you have a better game rule, then please let us know. We can incorporate it. And easy to produce. All the cards are business card format, so they can be easily reproduced. The score notebooks are default notebooks, so they are not that expensive to produce. All artwork is vector-based and available for adaptations if needed. And we can, as organization, can facilitate the production of localized versions in batches of 50 pieces. We have tried to find a balance between cost and revenues, and we found out that when we produce the game in batches of 50 pieces, then the costs are affordable to keep it in TripleA-Reno terms. And easy to ship. It is fit for default letterboxes, reducing postal costs, at least in the Netherlands, because I do not know the letterbox size in Italy or in Spain, for example. I would like to conclude with some suggestions for use in order to trigger your thinking. It can be used very effectively in training and workshop settings. For example, in the Netherlands, with the previous version of the game, more than 400 people working at housing associations have been trained already, and people at municipalities. We are using it as an icebreaker in renovation teams to create some team building, and especially between the installers within the team and the construction companies, the game works quite well. In kitchen table advice dialogues, as a business present. You can also use it at home for your own home, because it's quite usable for that, and so on. And other suggestions are highly welcome. Thanks for your attention. And if you have questions or if you want to order, you can find me on the following address. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you, Jan, for this explanation. Now I will give the floor to Bjorn Mallands, our member from VVH, the director of VVH. Bjorn, are you with us?
Yep.
Yes. Hi, Bjorn.
So just a quick, I won't do the presentation. I mean, it would probably take a bit too long. I think you all know in the sector of renovating, whether it's social housing or public housing or more in general, just housing, the communication with tenants is very important. And at the same moment, I think it's very often forgotten that there are people living in the projects that we are developing. So when we see it, that, for instance, our project managers, when they're taking up a redevelopment project, the idea that they actually have to work with people that are at this moment living in those projects, in those apartments, it's something that comes quite late in the process. And we try, well, we invest a lot at the Flemish level to try to turn that around and to make that the core of what we're actually doing, because providing social housing, the main aim is, of course, providing it for people. It's not like or not unlike, for instance, the railroads. In Belgium, the railroads are telling of themselves that they can build quite good rails and quite good trains, but they very often forget that people have to take the train and that the train should be on time, and that in itself is more important than a nice station or a nice train or a nice railroad net. So it's more or less the same with renovation. I think the aspect of people living there, and not only in the specific apartment, but also in the neighborhood, that is something that we have to be very aware of, and they have to work on. Just to give you an idea, and then the example I have here with me is from an award we've given a couple of years ago. And the award was focused on communication with tenants in renovation projects. In this case, it was about redevelopment, but it was demolishing the building and newly built. So it's not really that you can take the tenants or the neighborhood with you on the track to see how you can redevelop it. And so it's not that we are changing their apartment or their dwelling. In this case, it was about demolishing, but even then it's very important that you give a lot of communication and also ask people how it works, because there are very often a lot of movement involved in these kind of redevelopment of social housing projects. And just sending people a letter with a message, okay, we will demolish your neighborhood in a couple of years, that's not the best idea. So you have to take them with you on a track, in a process, to convince them that what you're doing is in their best interest, and also to give them some kind of clear view on what will happen, because they'll have to move. Is it temporarily or not? But you have to convince them that they have to move. And also it's very often about quite a big process. Just to give you an example, we have quite a lot of projects that need as much allocation than the entire allocations we do in 1 year in that city. So it's not easy to make the puzzle. And so it's important that we get them involved. I mean, involvement of our tenants, of neighborhoods or other local actors is very important. And every tool that can add to that process is, in a way, something that we take very seriously and that we invest a lot in. This, as I told you, has been set up together with a quite famous artist who made a lot of drawings for the process to learn people what will happen. And also there was a workshop with the children of the neighborhood, so they could give ideas about redeveloping their neighborhood and how it would look like in the future and what they thought would be important. And I think that's very important is to listen. We have a lot of people who have a lot of experience in our neighborhoods, actually the tenants who are living there, and we should make better use of that. So we did a couple of years ago also in Genk, quite a big project, and it was a redevelopment in case of homes for elderly. So we stripped it just to the walls, and then the people who would live in it had the opportunity to actually try how they would set their furniture and things like that. And we developed the project based on the ideas they had and the ideas they put forward. And so I think a tool, a very low threshold tool that can bring people around the table and that can start the conversation about whether is it energy efficient renovation, whether is it redevelopment of a neighborhood, whether is it even a new neighborhood that you can that you will start developing next to existing city centers. It's very important that you get the people on board And of course, the best way to do that is not to give a very technical and a very academic presentation about all the things that will change, but just talk with them, ask them how they feel about it, what they think is important. And it makes a lot of difference just to have the leverage from the local community to set up a working process and to get them on board. And because sometimes renovation and social housing is a bit of a catch-22. On the one hand, people are complaining about the quality of their house. Is it moist? Is it a very high energy bill or things like that? So the media is very interested in that kind of stories. And then at the same moment, if you start redeveloping a very old neighborhood, people start complaining that the houses are still very good. So it's not a good idea to demolish them, and they want to stay in the neighborhood they were born and things like that. So that's very difficult anyway in any scenario to tackle that as a social housing company, and even more if you don't have tools to set up a low threshold communication with your tenants. So I think from that point of view, it's very interesting that there are a lot of opportunities like what has been developed now, just to start a conversation and see where it's going, and it's I think the right approach. And as you know, also in the Aster project, where we are developing quite a lot of solar panel installations on social houses in Flanders, also there, communication with the tenants is a very important aspect, because you will change the house they're living in, and I think it's very important that you get the people who are actually living there on board. So that's more or less what I wanted to say about this issue.
Thank you, Bjorn, for sharing this approach. Now it's time to play. So I will invite our game leader, Dara Turnbull, to explain the rules.
Hi, Abdul. I don't know if you can show the game screen. If you're spotlighting it, that is.
I can help you.
Yeah.
I think now you have.
Perfect. Yep, perfect. So I'm sure. So Jan already talked you through the basic dynamics of the board in terms of the basic features. But I'm just going to play you through one scenario, and then, as Abdurrahim already explained at the beginning, we'll split you into two groups, and we can maybe get you a bit more involved in terms of playing through a few different scenarios. So the scenario which I pre-selected is scenario number 9 for those of you who have the game, and I think Abdul shared the pack online. So if you don't have the actual physical board game with you, then you can still play with us by accessing the online package. So I'm playing scenario number 9, which is a low maintenance cost scenario. So there are two primary objectives here. The first one is to reduce your energy use within the home. So this is a standard home model, and within that, it's presumed that you have about 30 what we call energy points in the game to begin with. So your objective is to make your home more energy efficient, and you do that by investing in windows and ventilation and heating systems and so on, to bring your energy consumption down from the base level, which is 30. In this scenario, you want to bring it down to no more than 12. So that means we need to introduce measures in the home to save us at least 18 energy points. At the same time, this is a low maintenance cost based renovation. So the secondary objective is also to pick measures which involve a very low level of maintenance, particularly for tenants and so on. So they're the two things that you combined: reducing our energy points by about 18 at least, and also making sure we pick measures which have good low maintenance points within the game. So just so if we pick a card, there are 36 different cards you can pick, which outline a whole variety of different renovations. So from solar panels, ventilation, heat generation, hot water usage, and so on. So if I pick just one card, for example, here, I hope you can see that. Yeah, combo solar boiler. So we can see this card here gives us -7 energy points for a price point of 4 points. So in the manual, it's written that 1 energy point is equal to about 500 kilowatts, and 1 price point is equal to about €1,000. So in this scenario, we're saving 7 times 500 with 3,500 kilowatts, and at a cost of about €4,000. However, if we look at the other points on this game, yes, thank you. So we have money saving points 2, comfort point 0, ease of installation point 0, and low maintenance points 1. So remember, in this particular scenario, we are looking to maximize our low maintenance points because we want a low maintenance efficient house. So this particular card, while it's okay, it gives us -7 energy points. Its low maintenance points is only 1. So maybe it isn't the best card for this scenario or the best modification. In order to save time, I've already picked out 2 functional ways of achieving our objective in this scenario. So the first way we could do it is using these 2 cards. So the first one is a low temperature heat LTH distribution system, which you can see has -2 energy points at a cost of 4 price points. And if we look at the other points, it also has 2 low maintenance points, which is good because we want to maximize low maintenance costs here. The second card I'm going to use is triple glazing. So we see here it gives me -6 energy points. It gives me +2 low maintenance points, again, which we're trying to maximize in this scenario. However, it is not cheap. It does cost 15 price points, which again is about €15,000. So this is quite an expensive measure. And then the final measure I'm going to use is, I don't know if you can see that. It's very difficult, everything's in reverse. The HT heat grid, which is -10 energy points, 4 price points, but also 3 low maintenance points. So again, we're trying to maximize low maintenance costs here. So what we do to make sure that we've achieved our accomplishment is we place the cards we're using onto the board in the right scenario. So here, the heat grid is a heat generation variable. We have triple glazed windows, which is a glass variable. And of course, the cards are color coded, so it makes it a bit easier. And I have a low temperature heat distribution system, which is a heat and cold distribution variable. So we have a booklet here. What you do is you fill in the top of basic home, 30 energy points. Then you fill in the name of the measures you've used. You put in your energy points for each measure, your price point, and your other points. In this one, I've marked out the number of low maintenance points, particularly because I'm interested in that scenario. So for using these 3 cards that I've used here, where we know? Yeah, so the total cost was -18 energy points, which is good. I needed to get -18 energy points, so I've achieved my objective. At a cost of 24 price points, that's about €24,000 for this renovation. I had 17 other points, including, most importantly, 7 low maintenance cost points. So that's quite good in terms of meeting my 2 objectives, low maintenance cost and increased energy efficiency. However, there is another way you could do it, and this is to reinforce the point that you can use many different combinations of measures to reach the same objective. So I'm going to keep my heat grid cards, which is quite useful. And I'm going to use this other card, which is solar panel 24 meters squared, south facing, which you'll see gives me -10 energy points for 7 price points. And if we look at the other benefits, there's a huge whopping 13 money saving points and 2 low maintenance points. So if I use this other method, then I get minus 20 energy points for a cost of 11 energy points, and other of 22, including 5 low maintenance points. So to put those two different ways of getting to the same goal side by side, in one scenario, we had an energy saving of 18 energy points at a cost of 24 price points. In scenario number 2, we had an energy saving of 20 points at a cost of only 11. So the second scenario, we saved more energy at a lower cost than in scenario 1. So basically what I'm trying to get across to you here is there are many different ways to reach the objective you're trying to reach. They all have different pros and cons. If money is no object for you, then a measure, for example, like triple glazed windows, which is very expensive, but does have a huge benefit in terms of the comfort to the resident, that might be the option for you. If you're trying to do this on a budget, you're trying to keep the cost down as low as possible, then maybe the second scenario I outlined, which has quite a cheap cost, only about 11,000 euro for the renovation, maybe that's more the option for you. Now, there is one other variable I didn't go into, which is the chance cards. So after every 2 renovations that you've applied here, so applied 2 renovations, you roll a dice. The idea is if a dice lands on an even number, you pick a chance card. If it lands on an odd number, you don't pick anything and you move on. So I'm going to roll the dice. I got a 3, so it means I wouldn't pick a chance card, but I want to show you guys. So I'm going to, okay, we'll say that was 6, even number. So you get a chance card up, which is very topical. That won't focus for some reason. Anyway, I'll read it out to you. It says, vlog. You decided to vlog about the energy saving projects. You earn 1 price point in ad revenue. Add a measure called vlog worth -1 price point. So it's kind of like in a game of Monopoly, but in this case, you're trying to use real world scenarios to show how, as well as the very obvious benefits, you can have secondary benefits like earning revenue from your building or community engagement or so on. To give you another example, this one's called subsidies. So in this scenario, heat pumps are being subsidized. If you use a heat pump, you will receive subsidies worth 3 price points. Add a measure called heat pump subsidies worth -3 points. So again, this is to show you that you might not have to do this kind of renovation by yourself. In many countries, there are very generous government subsidies which are available to encourage you to do these sorts of renovations. So the game is trying to bring those sorts of real world elements into the game. So I hope that was sufficiently clear. I'll be in one of the breakout rooms. My colleague Clara, who also knows how to play the game, will be in the other one. So we're going to try and walk you through another scenario, which is scenario 10, I think, Abdu.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all from me then.
Okay, thank you, Dara, for explaining the rules remotely, which is not easy. Now it's time to play. I will just create 2 breakout rooms. One breakout rooms will be led by Clara Maffei, and the second one by Dara. And they will be also assisted by Jan and Simona. Okay, good. They are joining us in about 43 seconds. Maybe what we can do is to compare the 2 options from the 2 breakout rooms, and then we can ask participants to share with us anything they want to share on the game.
So indeed, this was it was interesting to play, say, one common scenario. But the interesting part is that when we play with different players and we have one single scenario, it's interesting to see at the end, by reaching the same target in terms of energy savings, for instance, how much the co-benefits or the cost investment. So there you can imagine like a sort of offer or in a tender or like a commercial offer where you are the the provider of the service, and then you are providing this at one specific cost, but then you have different options. So we found that very interesting also with our installers and engineers.
Okay, thank you. Everyone is back now. So maybe I give the floor to Clara and Dara just to sum up which measures they took, and if there is any main points that raised from the discussion to share it with us, and also open to all participants to share with us any inputs.
Sure, I might go first if that's okay.
Yes.
So we left it to everybody basically to pick the different measures that were right for them in their own context, which is pretty interesting actually, because one of the main points is that the cards and the energy values and the measures are indicative, but they need to be adapted to each national context. So there might be measures here which will never feature in some countries or some regions, but will feature very heavily in others, and so on. So overall, the methodology seemed to be quite useful. That it's easy to understand, easy to engage with. But yeah, the main point is that we need to be adaptable to different kind of contexts and different kinds of groups. So, for example, we discussed that if you're a homeowner, there are some measures here which are never going to appeal to you because you're really thinking about you as an individual household. If you're a cooperative or a social housing provider, maybe you're thinking more about the cost, for example, as being your main. So you're trying to get that balance right between the energy saving and the cost that you actually need to implement the measures. So that was kind of the main focus that we had from our group, was kind of talking about the different ways that you could adapt to different types of scenarios based on the client and the region, the climate, and so on. So I did mention the fact that we do, in the game, you do have these blank cards, which mean that people, for example, if in a Mediterranean climate, you can fill in cards which may be more relevant to you within that context. If you're in a Northern European climate where maybe you've colder winters, then maybe there'll be different measures again, different types of designs, different types of buildings. But yeah, I think overall it was a good scenario that we played through. I don't know, Jan, if you want to add anything.
No, not at this time. I
I'm
think
glad
it's time to close the meeting.
So let's take 2 minutes again just to finish with Clara, and then we close the meeting.
Sure. So very quickly to sum up, we were playing the zero energy building scenario, where a building consumes absolutely no energy annually. And yes, the energy is sourced through renewable energies. So we had to reach the -35 energy points. So quite a big reduction from the original the starting point. And we played a set of 3 measures. So the high temperature heat grid, the combo solar boiler, and the solar panel 24 square meters facing south. And we took a chance card where it says that we are living in a sunny region, and therefore we have a plus 20% of, let's say, energy savings in comparison to other scenarios or other climate zones or areas. So thanks to these 3 measures, we managed to reduce our energy quite a lot, very close to the targets, at a very affordable budget of around 15K. And with quite a lot of co-benefits in terms of money savings, comfort, easy installation, and low maintenance costs. So it was a good, yes, a good balance at the end between energy savings, budget, and co-benefits.
Thank you, Clara. Thank you, Dara, Simona, Jan, Bjorn, Soraka, everyone. Thank you for your contribution. It's time to close the meeting, and we will be sending you an email with the report of the meeting, the recording also, and the link to read also the report on our website. So thank you to everyone, and we will get back to you in the following days.